And thank you for joining us here today for this exciting announcement. And I'd like to recognize that we are gathered on the traditional territories of the Lekwungen-speaking peoples, the Shawnees and the Secwépemc First Nations. I'm Katrina Conroy. I'm the Minister of Finance and MLA for Kootenay West, and I will be your MC. But before we begin, first we are going to watch a video. So direct your eyes to the screen.
Here in the heart of the Conservancy River Valley, which is southeast of Revelstoke, BC, in the Selkirk Mountains, these forests contain species that take hundreds of years to assemble. In the way they do, it receives a ton of rain. It's warm, it's humid in here, it's lush, the devil's club's over your head, the ferns are growing in the background. The headwaters of the Conservancy River Valley have been untouched in its pristine natural state. Working together, Nature Conservancy of Canada, with Interfor, the province of BC, and local Indigenous groups to help create a protected area in the headwaters of the Conservancy River.
So I'll give you a little taste of what we're looking at here, but today is a really significant day for all those involved over the past years to protect BC's wonderful natural ecosystems. It's a really important announcement for the people of my constituency, Kootenay West, as well as the people of Brittany Anderson's constituency in Nelson Creston. Prior to my new cabinet position, I proudly served as a Minister of Forests, and I had the pleasure of learning more about BC's incredible biodiversity. And today we are making a commitment to permanently protect a very special place that supports some of that incredible diversity, a special place that just happens to be north of where I live. And to start off our announcement today, I'm pleased to welcome our Premier David Eby.
Thanks, Pat. Thanks so much, Minister Conroy, and thank you all for joining us here today for this important announcement. I'll begin by acknowledging we're on the territory of Lekwungen-speaking peoples, the Shawnees and Esquimalt First Nations. We're here today in the Hall of Honor at the Legislative Assembly of British Columbia in Victoria, BC, and about 700 kilometers east of here is where you'll find the Conservancy Valley. It's located near Revelstoke. And Conservancy is one of BC's greatest treasures. It's home to old-growth cedars and hemlock trees that are 4 meters in diameter. For reference, that's 2 of me, but sideways. These trees are more than 1,000 years old. Over 250 species of lichen can be found in these forests, including some that are completely new to science. This is just a snapshot of the rich biodiversity of this area and the Conservancy Valley. It's one example of how our province's landscape is a source of beauty, food, and recreation, and a source of great pride for all British Columbians. For too long, governments didn't make protecting this beautiful place the priority it should have been. In fact, they believed we had to choose between growing the economy and protecting unique wild spaces like this for generations to come. That's a false choice. British Columbians know we can and must do both, and so does our government. Protecting these places for our kids and for their kids is one of the most important things we can do to create a healthier future. Stewardship of our waters, lands, and resources means working in partnership with First Nations. It means working with industry, workers, and community to help us reach our targets for protecting BC's biodiversity. This is hard work, but we owe it to our children and grandchildren. It's this shared sense of duty that brings us here today. I'm proud to announce that we're establishing a new Conservancy Conservancy. The Conservancy will span more than 58,000 hectares. Additionally, we're going to protect another 17,000 hectares in the southern part of this valley. Forestry activity will be restricted in this sensitive ecosystem. Our actions to preserve the Conservancy Valley will make this one of the most significant protected areas established in the province in a decade. This is also an example of the priceless biodiversity we'll be protecting with our commitment to protect 30% of our land base by 2030. We've been able to get to this point thanks to the hard work of a lot of people. I'd like to recognize all the First Nations on whose territory the Nkamaplu Valley is located. I'd like to thank the Confederated Tribes of the Colville Reservation, the Sinixt Confederacy, the Pespésellkwe, Skw'lax Secwépemcúlecw, and the Shuswap Band for being a part of today's announcement. We all came to the table with the Nature Conservancy of Canada and Interfor. Together, we were able to identify options to help protect the unique ecological values of this area. I'd like to take a moment to commend Interfor on releasing 75,000 hectares of their forest tenure to help establish the Conservancy and protected area. When we work in partnership, we get better results. And that is my focus. That's the focus of our whole government, delivering results that people can see and feel in their lives and in their communities. Protecting and enhancing BC's biodiversity is our shared responsibility. When my kids grow up, I want them to know the same British Columbia that I do, with clean water, land, and air, unique wild ecosystems, second to none. The future is within reach, and today we are one step closer thanks to the work of so many people. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Premier Eby, and this is incredible news for people in the Kootenays and people right across the province. Today's announcement, it represents years of work, as the Premier said, with many different organizations involved. When I first heard about the Nkamaplu Valley, when I was elected to represent this area in the 2009 election, I was approached by the Valhalla Wilderness Society, and I want to acknowledge them today for their passion, for their work, for the people that are involved with that organization that have worked so hard to see this day happen, along with many other people in our region, but specifically them. And I also, again, I want to give a shout out also to Interfor, who when they approached me and said they were actually considering doing this, I was a bit taken aback because it's not something you expect from a company that wants to harvest logs, but these people recognized the incredible value of this value. So I want to thank them too. And I'd now like to welcome George Heyman, another passionate person on this file, the Minister of Environment and Climate Change Strategy.
Thanks so much, Minister Conroy and Premier. I'm also honored to be here on the traditional territory of the Lekwungen-speaking peoples. You know, we are extremely fortunate to live in a province, British Columbia, that has unique species and ecosystems that simply aren't found other places in the world. And I think we're all coming to understand very deeply that maintaining biodiversity and forest ecosystem health is critical to community health in so many ways. And that also brings responsibilities. There's a remote valley we're talking about today near Revelstoke called the Nkamaplu that is a very special place where some of these unique ecosystems and species flourish. It's part of BC's very rare inland temperate rainforest, which is one of the few inland temperate rainforests found in the world, and it is a unique part of the province. I've been Minister of the Environment and Climate Change Strategy for over 5 years, and people have raised the Nkamaplu with me continually, almost since day one of me holding this office. And the reason for that is the valley supports important habitat for wildlife like grizzly bears, wildlife that need it as a corridor for movement. There are old growth forests that my colleagues have talked about that are rare: hemlock, western red cedar, 1,000-year-old trees, and 250 species of rare lichens. The conservation community and people who live in the area understood and understand what an important and unique region this is, and they've been calling for protection for many years. 58,000 hectares, the Nkamaplu Valley Conservancy will be one of the most significant protected areas established in BC in over a decade. It is one of the 9 areas that was identified through the Old Growth Strategic Review where forest harvesting was immediately deferred in a first step. In addition, another 17,000 hectares in the southern part will be protected from forestry activity, as the Premier has noted. This supports our government's commitment, the Premier's commitment, to protect 30% of the land base by 2030 in a number of ways that will include Indigenous protected and conserved areas. Important habitat connectivity will be preserved, and all of this is possible because our government was able to work with First Nations, with Interfor, and with the Nature Conservancy of Canada. So thank you to everyone who's been involved, and particularly I want to thank the Nature Conservancy for facilitating some of the discussions and the funding that was necessary to reach this agreement today. And particularly also the First Nations who've shown a great interest in conserving this critical area and committing to work with our government going forward on collaborative management of these areas. We recognize that today's announcement is an incredibly positive step. It's a first step, and more work will need to be done to protect these incredibly rare forests. We need to build a strong, secure future that will be built on shared approaches with Indigenous people and local communities. Because when we care for the land, the water, and all the life that depends on those healthy ecosystems, we end up with a healthy planet and a healthy home. Public input will remain part of the process going forward as we talk about how we're going to manage this conservancy. But I just want to emphasize that supporting nature conservation is one of the most important things that we are trying to do to create a healthier future for British Columbians. We often have not fully understood or appreciated the importance of these ecosystems. We thought we could simply go in and harvest without paying attention to the impacts. We all now know, including corporations, that we can't do that. We need to take measures before it is too late and these ecosystem values have disappeared. Although BC has one of the largest protected area systems in North America, there is much more work to do. And this is, today, a very important step. We'll continue to look for opportunities to conserve biodiversity and ecosystems to protect the values that make our province unique, while we still have the time to conserve them for the future and to ensure that we have a healthy economy that will support healthy communities. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Heyman and Minister Heyman. And now I'd like to introduce, it gives me a lot of pleasure to introduce and welcome to the podium Nancy Newhouse, the Regional Vice President for the Nature Conservancy of Canada.
Well, good afternoon. To begin, I'd like to recognize the Songhees and the Esquimalt people for their long-term stewardship of the lands we're gathered on. I am really grateful to enjoy the beauty and splendor of all living things that nations across British Columbia have cared for and continue to steward. This is an incredibly exciting day for nature and for people in British Columbia and Canada. I'm delighted to say a few words on behalf of the Nature Conservancy of Canada and our supporters. The Newhouse Valley, as you've heard, is an amazingly special and important place. It's a remote valley of ancient forest and wild rivers, a place where grizzly bears and lichens and wolverines thrive. This conservation achievement represents the culmination of many years of vision and determination by individuals and organizations across the province. The Nature Conservancy of Canada is honored to facilitate the collaboration that led to the agreement and to bring dedicated conservation funders to bring a durable solution. We're really committed to mobilizing all sectors and supporting new and innovative ways to conserve lands through our values: big thinking, collaboration, determination, and empowerment. As a society, we're faced with two massive challenges: nature loss and climate change. And when one accelerates, so does the other. And nature conservation is the integral part of the solution. The Global Biodiversity Agreement that was reached in Montreal by 190 countries acknowledges that only through a whole of society approach can we act with the urgency and ambition that we need to tackle these crises. This means understanding the fundamental way that people are a part of nature and that ecosystem health is a foundation of well-being. We must accelerate large-scale projects that bring people together and build a thriving world. These ideas are at the heart of the strategic plan of the Nature Conservancy of Canada. We'd like to thank the province of British Columbia and its amazing staff for their drive to make the world a better place. BC's commitment to reconciliation, to caring for land, and to protecting 30% of the province by 2030 is inspirational to Canada and to the world. We'd like to acknowledge the Government of Canada, who supported the project through Canada's Nature Fund, and we'd like to recognize Interfor for their key contributions to this conservation outcome for the Newhouse Valley. We also wish to express our gratitude to our funders, Tech Resources, the Weiss Foundation, the Wilberforce Foundation, and several individual donors. Their remarkable generosity provided a critical tool to make our collective vision for the Newhouse Valley a reality. We thank the past, current, and future generations of Indigenous communities that have and will steward these lands and who really generously share their knowledge and deep understanding of the interconnectedness of all life. Thank you to everyone who's gathered here today and virtually on achieving this deeply meaningful conservation success.
Thank you, Nancy, and for your continued support in protecting and enhancing BC's biodiversity. Now, Indigenous people have been and will continue to be essential partners for stewardship of our province's waters, lands, and resources. And joining us today, I hope by Zoom, we're good to go. Yes, there he is there. Good. Okay. The technology didn't fail us. It's my pleasure to introduce and welcome Secwépemc Chief James Tomma of the Skw'lax to Secwépemcúlecw, and he is also the chair of the Pespésellkwe to Secwépemc Leadership Council.
Hi. Wyatt in our language means hello. Behind me I have Councillor Don Francois. Secwépemc and means in our language chief. I've had the honor to be chief of our band for a little over a year now. And one of the sacred trusts that I have is looking after our elders, our women, and our children. And it's the children that I take that quite seriously, because it's said that we don't inherit from our elders, we borrow from our children. And what legacy are we going to leave behind for our children to enjoy? In my lifetime, I've seen what now we understand cumulative effects that we can have on ecosystems, the environment as a whole, globally. This particular announcement, I'd like to thank all people involved to make this become a reality, and for people to really see exactly what this place was prior to any type of industrialization, natural resource extraction. We have a word, it's called malama. It's what our people did for time immemorial. We were hunter-gatherers. We understood our place in nature. We understood that our Creator put these things here for us to use. We lived within it, not taking us what we can and what we didn't need. We took just what we needed. And this affords not only my children, but all the children to experience, to go see exactly how these things that in the past we took for granted and only put a monetary value on. Now, old growth, it was just seen as a dollar value, but now people will be able to go and look and see the grandeur that the Creator put for us there. This is an incredible opportunity for people, future generations, to see exactly what in the past was taken for granted. And I consider it quite an honor to speak in front of this because it to me, in sharing the future for our children, is something that I hold sacred, because our children, they have no control over it. We do. We have to do things now to ensure that our children enjoy some of the things that we have taken for granted for too long. We understand now the effects that we have on everything that we do, and now our children will see something like this. I'm very excited for this, quite an honor. And hopefully in the future, we can go up and take a look at it and see exactly what our ancestors and First Contact walked through and looked at. With that, thank you very much. Cook's Jam in our language means thank you. We don't know how to say goodbye in our language. It's Muitsi Padu, till we see each other again. Bye. Oops. Thank you. Oops. Thank you.
Thank you, Kukpi, Tomma, and to Councillor Donna, and it's a real honor for us that they were able to join us. And with that, I'd like to open the floor to media if anyone have any questions.
Thank you very much. A reminder to media on the line, please press *1 to indicate that you'd like to ask a question. We are going to start here in the room today. First question comes from Richard Zisman, Global News.
Premier Prime Minister announced this morning that the premiers would be heading to Ottawa on February 7th to meet about healthcare. Are you optimistic around these conversations, and what more can be determined on this issue, considering we all know that funds are desperately needed for the healthcare system?
I'm really hopeful that we'll be able to reach an agreement in Ottawa. I understand that the Prime Minister has done the work with his team to set up for this meeting, for the conversation that we need to have. And it's been my belief and the belief of all the premiers from the provinces and territories that if we could just get around a table together and talk it through, that we could get a deal. And that's what we're set up for on the 7th, and that's what I'm really looking forward to.
The Prime Minister has already said, though, that they won't be signing any deals on the 7th. So what's the point of going if the Prime Minister is already saying that there isn't going to be a deal?
Well, there, as I understand it, the proposal's around two badly needed discussions. One is about the base funding for healthcare that all provinces need universally. But the second is bilateral agreements with the provinces around, each province has its own distinct health issues that we're facing. And we need to have those unique agreements with Ottawa around those priorities, those areas of strain that we're feeling in the healthcare system. So my hope is we come out of the meeting on the 7th with an agreement about the base and commitment and a path towards those bilateral discussions that we have to have on our provincial priorities here in British Columbia, those areas of strain that we're seeing in our province.
Our next question comes from Rob Shaw, Czech News.
Premier, Victoria's police chief has said that the supportive housing units your government has opened are in the grips of crime right now. There are criminals running operations within them. They are not safe for the public. I'm wondering what you think of those comments and what you're doing to improve the situation.
Well, I do know that we have had issues in particular in relation to housing units that are functioning as supportive housing, but are under the Residential Tenancy Act, which has made it difficult to remove tenants that are causing problems in the building, and particularly that have criminal connections or engaging in criminal activity. And so one of the pieces of policy work that we've been doing is around making sure that our supportive housing providers are able to have those tools to ensure that buildings are safe, of course. And I think the other critical piece around this is to recognize the need for the complex care beds that we are opening as a province. People with serious mental health and addiction issues that need extra supports. We have 100 of those beds coming online soon here in the CRD. Is going to make a big difference for those really hard to house tenants that can cause chaos in a building, and in fact can jeopardize that social license, the community support for this kind of housing that we need so desperately.
On LNG, last week you were asked about phase 2 potentially expanding at LNG Canada. You said it would have to fit into any climate targets. I have a bit more of a fundamental question though. Do you want a phase 2 of LNG Canada? Your government courted the project pretty hard with billions in tax breaks just a few years ago, but I have sort of yet to hear from you if you want that investment from them as a second phase.
Well, I think for our province and for our economic future, ensuring that we have foreign direct investment across an array of industries, including in LNG, is an important part of how we're going to have a strong economy going forward. But another piece of that, obviously, is our climate targets. BC is only going to have strong and clean economic growth if we have meaningful targets around climate change, which is a priority for many British Columbians. So for major project proponents, LNG Canada already was permitted by a previous government. They are going to make their final investment decision going forward, and we'll watch for that. But for major project proponents, we're working with them to ensure that they can come within our climate commitments, and LNG is no exception. But it's certainly one of the most visible ones, and certainly when people are looking at the targets are the ones that they're concerned about. But the issue is certainly there in mining. I've had conversations with senior officials in the mining sector who are also excited about decarbonization, using hydrogen, using electricity to decarbonize their operations, and we're going to continue that work. That is really what I want, is BC to be a leader in these heavy industrial projects, but also solving problems with a BC approach, reducing emissions, providing the cleanest resources so that companies who buy products here know that they're low carbon, high human rights standards, and that our resources command a premium as a result.
Next question from the room before we go to the phones. Alec Lazenby, BC Today.
Hello, Premier. Back when you were Attorney General, you directed the government not to take Indigenous nations to court if they could avoid it, if a nation-to-nation agreements could be made, but stopped short of saying that you wouldn't take First Nations to court at all. With the agreements with Blueberry River First Nations and other Treaty 8 nations, at this point, what do you see as the movement forward, and do you think court cases are still needed for government Indigenous relations?
Thanks. We respect and want to recognize the right of nations to take us to court when they need to, when they see that as the path forward, which Blueberry did in relation to the cumulative impacts in their territory. But where we have an opportunity to sit at the table and work things out, we're going to take it. And so when we lost the Blueberry decision at trial, establishing that the cumulative impacts on their territory had reached the point that they weren't able to exercise their territory rights, we had a choice. We could appeal that decision and go through the uncertainty of multiple court processes, permits being suspended, industrial activity completely stopped on the territory, or sit at the table and try to find a way forward, which is what we did, and I'm incredibly proud of all of the nations that were involved in those discussions, as well as public service staff, industry, everybody working together to find solutions, which we did. It's my belief that that is how we go forward. And the as we get these agreements, as we get agreements around Treaty 8, as we get agreements around Taltan, and nations see and industry sees the certainty and predictability that can come from that, that will create momentum for additional deals and additional agreements that are long-term, not transactional, but long-term to provide us with the certainty that we need.
And what do these agreements mean for hotly contested resource projects such as Site C or Coastal GasLink or other projects that may come up in the future where there is dispute over agreements or over the project itself?
Yeah, you named a couple of them, but there is no question that there are going to be points of disagreement, points of challenge in what the province's vision is, what industry's vision is, and what First Nations visions are for their territory. We have set out an Environmental Assessment Act that brings all of those parties to the table around major projects to find a way forward. But the goal here is really to have those relationships so that when the project proposal comes, that we already have the framework, we already have the relationship with the nation, we already have the land use plan, so that everybody's like, yeah, this is where the industrial corridor is, this is where the forestry area is, and this specific area is where we really need to protect it. Today's announcement about and the agreement we reached between industry, First Nations, local community, this is the area that needs to be protected. Interfor coming to the table with their tenure is an example of that kind of work.
Our next question comes from the phones. We'll go to Mira Baines, CBC.
So, Premier, where do you stand committing to a national health data system to measure of accessibility when we're talking about healthcare transfer?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
Mira, I'm wondering if you can
again?
repeat yourself. I'm not sure if you're on speaker or Bluetooth, but it's really hard to hear in the room. If you're able to repeat your question, that would be great.
Sure. Yeah. So, Premier, just in terms of the meeting with the Prime Minister on the healthcare transfers, where do you stand on committing to a national healthcare data system as a measure of accountability for that money?
Well, certainly for our approach to healthcare in British Columbia and where we're going, data informs a lot of our decisions. You saw that work really explode under COVID, really focusing on the data and where the opportunities were for us to make a difference. And we have expanded and will continue to expand that data-driven approach for our healthcare system. Penny Ballum has come on to assist us with that work. She's an expert in data-driven decisions like that in the healthcare system. So the federal government's vision around that is very consistent with where we're going anyway. But the specifics around the healthcare deal, whether or not there's going to be a national data, all these things will be decided at the table with the premiers from the provinces and the territories. And I'm very keen to have that discussion because I think we will find a lot in common, and I'm very hopeful we'll get to an agreement.
Follow up, Mira?
Yes, critics are raising, here, hold on. Okay, critics are raising concerns about drugs from Vancouver's MySafe machines, like hydromorphone, being made available to teens, and they're demanding more oversight. I'm just wondering your thoughts on that.
I caught broadly the question about the diversion of hydromorphone to youth, which I assume is related to safe supply. Mira, I apologize, I didn't hear the entirety of the question. As far as our safer supply program and our initiative with the federal government around decriminalization of small amounts of illicit substances, that program is focused on getting between people with struggling with addictions and the predatory criminal gangs that are selling illicit drugs, and for people who use illicit drugs to be able to take advantage of services like drug testing to at least know what they're using, to try to reduce some of the stigma so that they're talking to doctors and nurses. Concerns about diversion or access of youth to drugs, this is a profound concern. We are hearing from moms of young people who are dying from overdose thinking they're using one drug and ending up using another one. And it's incredibly important for all British Columbians to know how incredibly toxic the drug supply is right now, and to please, if you're able to reach out to family, friends, physicians, nurses, if you're struggling with addiction. What you're going to see going forward from us is a real focus on, now that we have the safe supply piece and the decriminalization piece, around expanding and continuing to build on that treatment. Seamless from detox to treatment, if necessary, supportive housing so that people can get the care that they need and hopefully address their addiction challenges.
Our next question comes from Derek Penner, Vancouver Sun.
Hi. My first question, my initial question, hoping to direct that to Tomma.
Is that possible? Is Kupti still on the line? Yes, Derek, he's still on the line. Go ahead.
Okay. I just wanted to know, this is something that's been of concern for a long time. Tomma, what were your thoughts kind of the moment you knew that the agreement was going to be final to you?
Personally, it is quite important to me, but when I'm a Cookbee, I think at the band level and the nation level, and this is a step that was necessary, that had to be taken. There's no question about it. For too long, when First Nations were only consulted, the consultants was only one way, and that it wasn't both directions. And as the original stewards of the land, you know, it made me quite excited that, oh, great, we're entering maybe into what should be just a stepping stone to improving what is actually happening, not only to Secwépemcúlecw, which means land of the Secwépemcs, but to BC, Canada. And we're all part of this, and it made me quite excited and very proud that something like this at this scope was going to take place. Thank you.
Derek,
Thank
do you have a follow-up?
Yeah, for perhaps the Minister Heyman and the Premier. This is on its own a substantial conservation area, but it's sort of in terms of the overall goal, Canada's overall goal of 30%. Where else do you see British Columbia making up ground to get to that 30 by 30 goal?
Thank you. We already, if you include conserved areas and what are called other effective conservation measures, are already at about 20%. I think that's leading in Canada. In order to identify areas that will be conserved in the future, we need to be respectful of the rights of the First Nations in the area and engage them in discussion about how they see that land being managed, what economic opportunities, whether conservation fits in. So I think broadly speaking, what is known by the public is the areas of old growth forest that we have deferred so that proper decisions can be made about them while there's still old growth forest on them. And we'll continue along the path we've been taking to engage with Indigenous people and community. But our goal is clear, 30 by 30, and we are also committed to implementing all of the recommendations of the Old Growth Strategic Review.
We have time for one more question. We'll go to Lisa Eusda, City News 1130.
Premier, just back to the healthcare funding. This morning, when asked about it, Minister Duclos said, the funding is there. It's not about the money. Most provinces are in surplus. BC is certainly one of those provinces in surplus, but it is about the money, is it not?
Well, I think that what it's really about is about British Columbians that are looking for care, that need care, and expect that all levels of government are working together to deliver that care. So when it comes to looking for a family doctor, we reached that new agreement with the Doctors of BC to get those family doctor services to British Columbians across the province. It's about recognizing for our provincial work, recognizing the credentials of internationally trained doctors and nurses who can provide care in our system right now, and it's about the new medical school and all those pieces. You're right, those initiatives cost money, and the province, in prioritizing and ensuring that British Columbians get the care they need, that means there's less money available for other essential programs, education, roads and transit, conservation and parks. So one of the key pieces about the federal government's partnership here is absolutely about them contributing their fair share of the cost of our national healthcare system to the provinces and territories. But importantly, too, is our shared commitment to a public healthcare system. When our healthcare system is underfunded, when it's under strain, that's when the people who think they can make money by allowing people to buy their way to the front of the line or luring doctors and nurses out of our public healthcare system into private companies, that's when they start showing up. So if we're committed to a public healthcare system that supports British Columbians, then we all have to work together. And that's why I'm so excited about this, this meeting on the 7th. It's absolutely about resources, but it's also about our strong public national healthcare system across Canada.
Lisa, do you have a follow-up?
Yes, sort of on healthcare still as well. New Brunswick is doing a promotion to try and encourage healthcare workers from Quebec to move back to New Brunswick. Is BC looking at doing anything to encourage workers from other provinces to come here, or something more to sweeten the pot to keep healthcare workers either in the province or in their field in the province?
Well, for British Columbia, our focus has really been about recognizing that there are a lot of people who want to work in British Columbia in the healthcare system, who have the skills and the ability to do that kind of work, who haven't been able to because of restrictions at the College of Physicians or the College of Nurses, both in backlogs in terms of being assessed, but also training programs to bring their skills up to the level where they're able to practice in BC. And so we've been pushing in that direction. I am certainly supportive of further discussions around national licensure for physicians, nurses, and other healthcare professionals. It doesn't make sense to me that there are barriers between provinces and territories for healthcare workers, but we're trying to add additional people to the system. We're not trying to take workers from other provinces that are also struggling. We're trying to focus on who's on the sidelines while families are looking for care. How do we get them out there into the hospitals, into the doctor's offices, providing that care? And we think that's where, and we hope that our leadership work through Minister Dix, through the colleges here, is something that other provinces look at as well.
Thank you very much. That concludes today's event.
Thanks very much, everybody.